For years, I owned a sizable plot of land just outside the entrance of a well-to-do neighborhood governed by a notoriously overreaching homeowners association. The land had been in my family for generations, properly deeded and taxed under my name. Everything changed when the association decided my property was inconvenient for their expansion plans. They wanted to build a second entrance to their neighborhood, and my land was the perfect location. At first, they attempted to negotiate, offering a lowball price that was an insult to the actual value of the property. When I refused, they escalated their tactics. Without my knowledge, they used shady legal maneuvers and their connections with the local zoning board to claim that my land was part of their right-of-way. They declared that the property had always been intended for public use and, within weeks, put up signs designating the space as an association-maintained road. I was completely blindsided when construction crews arrived, tearing down my fencing and paving over the land that was rightfully mine. They did not even have the decency to notify me directly, and I only found out when I saw my property being bulldozed one morning. Furious, I immediately contacted the lawyer, but the association had anticipated my resistance. They had pushed through legal loopholes, arguing that my land had been abandoned and that they were simply maintaining it for the good of the community. The local government, packed with officials who supported the association, sided against me. I was effectively robbed of my land, and no amount of legal threats seemed to make a difference. Despite the overwhelming odds, I refused to surrender and allow them to take what belonged to me. If they wanted a road, I was going to give them a road on my terms. After realizing that the homeowners association had manipulated the system to steal my land, I knew that traditional legal battles would be slow, expensive, and likely ineffective. Instead of wasting years fighting a losing battle in court, I decided to beat them at their own game. My property records were still clear, and despite their claims, I retained ownership of the land. They had built a road without my permission, but nowhere in the paperwork did it state that the road was public. This gave me an idea that would not only regain control of my land, but also make them regret ever crossing me. I began researching property laws, easements, and private road ownership regulations. With the help of a knowledgeable attorney, I confirmed that since the road was built on my land and had not been properly transferred, I could legally designate it as a private toll road. This meant that anyone who wanted to use it, including the very homeowners who supported the association's actions, would have to pay a fee. The plan was completely within my legal rights, and the best part was that the association had already done the hard work by paving the road themselves. All I had to do was legally register it as a private roadway, install a toll booth, and enforce payment. To prepare, I filed the necessary paperwork with the local authorities, ensuring that my ownership of the land and road was properly documented. Then, I set up a simple but effective toll collection system. I installed a gate at both ends of the road, complete with security cameras and automated payment options. Within a few weeks, everything was ready, and I publicly announced the change. The association, believing they had won, was caught completely off guard when they received notice that the road they so proudly built was now a private toll road. Residents were furious when they realized they would now have to pay me to use what they had assumed was a free neighborhood entrance. The irony was almost too perfect. The very people who had backed the association's land grab were now forced to either pay up or take a much longer route. The moment the toll road became operational, the homeowners association erupted in outrage. Furious residents flooded their meetings, demanding to know how this had happened. They had assumed the road was theirs, yet here they were, forced to pay a toll every time they entered or exited through the newly built entrance. The association board scrambled to find a way to challenge my actions, but they quickly realized that I had done everything by the book. The road sat on land that was legally mine, and I had properly registered it as a private toll road under local and state regulations. Any attempt to remove my toll system would be an act of trespassing. Desperate to avoid paying me, the association tried several underhanded tactics. First, they claimed the road was public property, but that argument fell apart when my lawyer produced documents proving I still owned the land. Next, they tried to pressure the local government to seize the road through eminent domain, but that process would take months, possibly years, and they would have to pay me fair market value, which they had previously refused to do. Seeing that their legal avenues were limited, they switched to intimidation. Anonymous complaints were filed against me, citing absurd violations such as improper road signage, obstruction of public pathways, and even noise complaints from the automated toll system. Inspectors came to my property, but everything was up to code, and I was well within my rights. When legal maneuvers and harassment failed, the association resorted to outright deception. They attempted to negotiate a deal where they would buy the road from me for a fraction of its worth, claiming it was in the best interest of the community. I laughed in their faces. They had stolen my land without hesitation, yet now that I had turned the tables, they expected me to roll over and give it back. Not a chance. Realizing they were running out of options, they tried to rally the homeowners into boycotting the road, encouraging residents to take an alternative route. This plan backfired spectacularly. The detour added an extra 15 minutes to their commutes, which frustrated the very residents who had originally supported the association's land grab. Some people tried to use the road without paying, but my security cameras captured everything, and I had no problem pursuing fines for trespassing. The more they fought me, the more they suffered. As the financial strain mounted, it became clear that the association had underestimated me. They had assumed I would fold under pressure, but instead, I had put them in a position where they were hemorrhaging money and losing support from their own residents. The toll road turned into a financial nightmare for the homeowners association. With hundreds of residents now forced to pay for daily access, the complaints within the community skyrocketed. What had once been a simple, convenient entrance was now a costly burden for homeowners who had blindly trusted the association's decisions. The board tried to keep the situation under control by reassuring residents that they were working on a solution, but the truth was, they were running out of options. Revenue from the tolls started flowing directly into my pockets, while the association was bleeding money. They had already spent a significant amount constructing the road, and now they were facing unexpected costs. Some residents attempted to organize a collective lawsuit against me, but after consulting with their lawyers, they realized my legal standing was airtight. The toll road was private property, and as long as I followed state regulations, I had every right to charge for its use. Homeowners who refused to pay found themselves either locked out or forced to take the long, inconvenient detour. Some tried to bypass the toll booth, but security cameras and automatic barriers ensured that every non-paying driver was documented, and I wasted no time enforcing penalties. The association's financial reserves, which had been used to fund their power plays and legal battles, were quickly depleting. To make matters worse, many residents started refusing to pay their HOA fees, arguing that the association had mismanaged their funds and failed to protect their interests. Tensions between the board members and the residents reached a breaking point, with homeowners demanding answers and even calling for resignations. At HOA meetings, angry crowds voiced their frustrations, demanding to know why they were being extorted to use a road that should have been free. The very people who had once supported the association's aggressive land grab were now turning against them. Meanwhile, I continued profiting from the situation. With the increased revenue from tolls, I invested in improving the road further, adding features such as better lighting, automated gates, and even a small convenience station nearby. Some residents, realizing they had no choice, started begrudgingly accepting the tolls, while others continued to fight the inevitable. The association scrambled to negotiate, offering me increasingly higher buyout offers, but I rejected every single one. Their desperation was evident, and I had no reason to let them off the hook after what they had done. As the months passed, the association's influence began to crumble. Residents who had once seen them as a necessary governing body now viewed them as an incompetent and corrupt organization that had failed to protect their best interests. More homeowners stopped paying dues, and the once powerful board started to fracture under pressure. Board members resigned one by one, unable to handle the backlash. What had started as their triumph quickly turned into their downfall, and I was there to watch every satisfying moment of it unfold. As the months dragged on, the Homeowners Association found itself in complete disarray. The toll road had not only become a daily financial burden for residents, but also a symbol of the association's incompetence. With their funds nearly drained and their leadership in turmoil, the remaining board members made one final, desperate attempt to regain control. They pushed for a special vote among homeowners, proposing an emergency increase in HOA fees to fund a legal battle against me. This was their last shot at overturning my toll system, but it backfired spectacularly. When residents received the proposal, their frustration boiled over into outright rebellion. The idea of paying even more money on top of the daily tolls was the last straw for many homeowners. At the next HOA meeting, an overwhelming number of residents demanded the immediate dissolution of the association. Tempers flared, shouting matches erupted, and before long, it was clear that the board had lost all authority. The homeowners no longer trusted the very organization that was supposed to represent their best interests. Seeing no other way forward, several of the remaining board members resigned on the spot, while others tried to deflect blame. But the damage was done. Shortly after, a formal petition circulated to officially disband the HOA. With hundreds of angry residents signing it, the motion passed faster than anyone expected. The once powerful association, which had stolen my land and tried to ruin me, was now nothing more than a failed organization with no authority left to enforce its rules. Without their control, the neighborhood reverted to a standard residential community, leaving homeowners responsible for their own properties without the oversight of a governing body. The moment I had been waiting for had finally arrived. With the HOA gone, some homeowners came to me, hoping to negotiate a deal to remove the toll road. At this point, I had already made a significant amount of money from it, and I had proved my point. Rather than continuing to collect tolls indefinitely, I made them an offer. If they wanted the road to be free again, they would have to buy the land back from me at a premium price, one far higher than what the HOA had originally offered. The residents, eager to move past the mess their former association had created, agreed. The final transaction secured me a hefty payout, and I walked away with more money than I ever expected to get for the land. The irony was undeniable. The HOA had tried to steal my property for their own gain, believing they could outmaneuver me with legal loopholes and intimidation. Instead, their greed led to their own downfall, and I emerged victorious. Not only did I get my revenge, but I also walked away with a financial windfall and the satisfaction of knowing I had dismantled a corrupt and overreaching organization. In the end, justice was served, not through the courts, but through patience, strategy, and an unwavering refusal to be bullied. This was more than just a fight over land. It was a lesson to every power-hungry homeowners association out there. Sometimes, the little guy fights back and wins.